This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Nick Moore back at headquarters with a top 5 to 5 that I assume will include the latest Twins meltdown after leading 2-0. Now not looking good at a frozen Target Field. Is that correct?
It will include that, but...
You're leading with?
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
They did play a game last night, game 2 of their 3-game New York trip.
Got a point, right?
They got a point. We're happy for you, but it ended like this.
Around the net of Gustafson. Now to Panarin. Panarin got away from Ross. He darts in left circle, through one of the back posts, and scored. Trocheck, 24 seconds in. Rossi blew a tire. The Rangers get the extra point.
Yeah, not good times in New York City at Madison Square Garden. So the bad news is, well, all of it's bad news, but you get a point. That's great.
Yep.
The Blues are now tied because they're winning games. They are tied with the Wild, 89 points apiece. So it's going to be, and there's no games in hand. Both teams have 76 games to play. So it's anyone's race to who doesn't have to play Winnipeg in the first round. That's what they're playing for. There is some cushion still with Calgary as the next team below them at 82 points, so a significant cushion to make the playoffs. But I think it's important to get Vegas instead of Winnipeg. And also, what you have not been able to comment on is Kaprizov is cleared for contact.
Yep.
The return imminent, and Eck is making good progress as well.
Yeah, that's really the gay topic. Because whoever they play in the postseason is going to be irrelevant if those... Obviously, you don't want to play Winnipeg. We all understand that. Actually, a kid that grew up in Vegas that is a big Vegas Golden Knights fan, he came over. He was like the Brett Blakemore of Radio Row. He came over and wanted to just break down hockey with me, and I wanted to just give him... I just wanted to give him your number so you could talk about it. Maybe tomorrow I'll have him come by and you can talk down the line to him. And he asked me, who do you want the Wild to play? And I said, none of it matters. None of it matters if those guys aren't back. And that's the reality of it. It's not, I don't think, being negative. That's just the reality of the whole bit.
You're right.
So that is great news. And Russo's going to join tomorrow right around this time at 5 o'clock. So he will give us the latest on what he hears. But that's really the topic. Whether it's Winnipeg, whether it's Vegas, whoever it is, none of it, it's all irrelevant if the big knockers aren't there. So it is it's promising that it's imminent for Kirill. And it really needed to be, right? Given that they didn't do anything. They didn't do the LTIR bit because they were counting on this. So it's good that with 7 games left, X amount of games left, whatever it is, 6, I think you said, that the end is near, we think, and that he'll be back and ready to go. Side note on the hockey, I love Joe O'Donnell saying blew a tire. I love saying that as a play-by-play person. It's my favorite. It makes me laugh like you just did. Every time I hear it, when my kids do it when they're running and they trip and you just say you blew a tire, it's not fun to do in real life. I love it when I hear it on a play-by-play guy, so good job, Joe O'Donnell. That was brilliant.
Well, also, when you're visualizing hockey and you hear Rossi blew a tire, you know exactly what he's talking about.
I knew that Gopher did not blow a tire in the regional semifinal loss a couple of nights ago. I guess that was a week ago now on Thursday night, right? Yeah. That was not a blown tire.
That was a trip.
That was a trip. I can't believe they didn't call it. The Gophers all stopped. I haven't been able to talk about it. I've been gone. I can't believe it. I can't believe that they didn't call it. I can't believe that the Gophers lost that game. I got in the car. I was listening to Wally and Pat because I got done with the Gopher women's basketball game, and I flipped over to Twin Cities News Talk. They're up 3-1. Then they had the goalie meltdown. We can't get his equipment figured out. He's not allowed to change his equipment. They have to put in the other goalie. He gives one up on the first shot. What a mess. What a buzzkill. And it was definitely a trip. They didn't call it. I know there was another goal that they had where a gopher got absolutely mauled behind the net. They didn't call that. Just add it to the list, Brett. The refs are always out to get us. There's a reason why Mike Grimm is how he is, and that was Exhibit 9000. And we never get the calls.
But you know what else? They'll change the rules next year.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah, how are they going to change the rules? Because we get it in hockey. They never call anything, right? They really don't want to call anything in the postseason, and I understand why. I get that to an extent, but there's times when it's open ice, clear as day. The guy slides 5,000 feet. Now, was he embellishing a little bit? Of course, but that was so clear and obvious. It's the middle of the ice. You can't miss it, and 3 seconds later, your season's over. And the crazy thing about hockey, which I get it, it's just how the sport is. They're devastated. This happened a few years ago. They lose in the national championship game in overtime. Brock Faber's like heave crying in the locker room, and 10 minutes later, he's with the top pair for the Wild. Like they have no time. They get home, they sign, they go play. Snuggerud's already gotten to do the rookie lap. I think for St. Louis, right? It's just it's crazy. It's crazy what the hockey guys have to do. But that was absolutely a trip. He did not just blow a tire. Thanks for reminding me of that because I didn't get to talk about that a week ago. No
problem. The Twins, opening day, Astros at home, the Asterix, and they get up 2-0 with a Correa soft grounder that ends up scoring Wallner. Larnach gets an RBI single. It's 2-0, but as we know from our friend Kevin Gorg, 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead in baseball. It is now 5-2 Astros in the top of the 7th with 2 outs. Not good. A solo homer for Walker, solo homer for Pena, and then a 2 RBI single for Rogers and another RBI double for Rogers. 5-2 Astros.
It's going to be interesting because there's been no vibe about this Twins team, right? That's been good, really, the entire offseason.
Yeah.
We've talked about the sale that wasn't, and now we've got the TV deal. And late in spring training, the ball guys, including Lavelle, who's going to join tomorrow at 5:30, we're doing the obligatory, and they're not wrong. On paper, if everybody's healthy, the Twins still appear to be the best team in the division. Well, we know, given that it's the Twins, they're not going to be healthy. Royce out. I think Brooks is out. Guys are already out. So that's already out the window. There's no positive vibe. I can't imagine ticket sales have been brisk. The weather in Minnesota right now is dreadful. I think it's still snowing, or there was snow today, right? I have only been in town a couple of days. Oh, good for me.
Lucky. Been
in tropical locations, and now I'm in San Antonio, Davie. But after today, when you get the obligatory, we're going to go because it's opening day, with a possible 2-5 record, with terrible temperatures, with no buzz or vibe about the team, and the fact that they just haven't played very well, despite being the unluckiest team of all time. We talked about that in the 3 o'clock hour. I'm curious to see how they're going to have to make their own juice. They're going to have to make their own mojo. They're not going to get the crowd's not going to will them to victories, because I just don't think they're going to be there for all the reasons that we just laid out. I am extremely fascinated by how that's going to go. And I'm a Rocco guy. I like Rocco. I think he's been dealt a bad hand. I get it that he's not perfect, and sometimes he's done too much of the analytics stuff. But just being around him now, the couple of times that he's come in with Barreiro and listening to guys like Gleeman that talk about how he thinks the game and sees the game, I'm a Rocco fan. I think he's a good manager, and I'm worried about him because of kind of how this whole thing has transpired really since the last offseason, not just this offseason, the last offseason, coming off of one of the best falls that they've had in the last 20 years. This is going to be interesting because the vibe is not good right now, and I don't know, they're really going to have to shock the system to change that.
I don't know why the vibe wouldn't be good. They're a first-place club in the division. So,
for now.
I mean, come on.
They could be last 30 place minutes or so.
Yeah. Let's talk Wolves here. I know you just talked with Chris Hine, but all-timer game in Denver. They get the Nets tonight in Brooklyn. The only injury for the Wolves as of now is Shannon with a right groin strain. He's out. But here, I don't follow the Nets as closely as I once did, Guardsy.
Yep.
But I have a list of names that they're not playing with tonight. I may butcher them. Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson. I'm going to go Zaire Williams. I'm going to go Day'Ron Sharp, DeAnthony Melton, and Noah Clowney. None of them are playing for the Nets tonight. And I don't know about you, but a trend that I've noticed with the Wolves, when there's a lot of players out on the other team, that's when you wave the white flag. You might be in trouble because when they're supposed to win.
Bet the money line on the Nets is what that whole thing just said. I don't know what the money line is. They're terrible. They're tanking. They're 25-51. They've actually won 2 in a row, but they've lost 7 of 10. Chris Hine just talked about it. We've talked about it all season. The Wolves they're a maddening team, and that's why they're in the 6th spot right now, just grinding for their non-play-in playoff lives, because that's just how they've rolled. They have not started the games against bad teams like they were supposed to. When guys sit out, they don't treat it with the appropriate professionalism, and that's why they are where they are. They could be very comfortably in the top 5 right now and really just be worried about who they're going to play and maybe who they're even going to host. With playoff tickets, I think, going on sale today. It's either today or tomorrow. I know season ticket holders got some type of pre-sale today. I think might go on to the public tomorrow. Maybe it was a little bit earlier today, but it's all right in front of them. That's the thing. Despite everything that we just talked about, the meandering through the season, the figuring out, the Randall and DiVincenzo fit, all of that can be thrown out the window and largely forgotten about if they just, for the final week and change of the season, handle the games that they're supposed to handle. They've got 2 quote-unquote difficult games. One of them against Memphis on the road. That is a week from Thursday, and I'm going to pull up the schedule. I think Milwaukee on the road Tuesday is the only other game that you would consider challenging. Their road games against good teams. Obviously, Milwaukee is, a playoff team. Dame Lillard's not playing for them right now. Giannis still is. I think he had a big night last night. But you look at it, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, then the 2 toughies, Milwaukee and Memphis. Brooklyn again, and Utah at home, terrible. At worst, that should be 4-2. And you think about the other teams' schedules that they're competing against. One of them is Memphis. They've got some tough games. The Warriors, who've been fantastic since they got Jimmy Butler, they've got 3 tough games. Lakers, Nuggets, and we think the Clippers. Haven't double-checked that, but at minimum, they're probably going to drop a game or 2. I mean, if the Wolves just rattled off, if they just finished 4-2, 5-1, they're probably a 5 or a 6 seed, and a lot of that stuff is forgotten. If they mess around, if they drop one of these no-count games, including tonight, then the negativity, the vibe is not going to be there. I just talked about the Twins vibe. The vibe, everyone will turn it on for the playoffs. Everyone will be excited about that, but it's all right there for them, I guess is the point. Despite everything that's happened the first 90% of the season, here you are with a week and change left with 6 extremely winnable games, 4 no-brainer winnable games. You just got to, for once this season, have that 7-day, 8-day stretch where you are consistent and handle your business. And Tuesday was awesome. You know how you ruin the vibe of Tuesday? You don't play well tonight, or you mess around tonight, or you mess around in Philly on Saturday night. And let's see if this team can do it, because up to this point this season, they haven't followed successful stretches against the bad teams that they come off of those stretches with in the right way.
I've got one more, or we can straddle. It's up to you.
What's the topic?
There's a lot of NFL rule changes that you haven't been allowed to talk about yet since you haven't been on the air in a while.
Let's straddle, and let's talk about those when we come back. Athletic Director Mark Coyle joins at 5:30.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Comedian and podcaster Tom Segura is hitting the road. Catch him when he brings the Come Together tour to the XL Energy Center Friday, April 18th. Don't miss out on this hilarious night of comedy. Enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets at KFAN.com keyword calendar. That's KFAN.com keyword calendar.
Guards in for Barreiro. Brett Blakemore back in Minneapolis. I'm in San Antonio. Davey for the Final Four Radio Row. We've got Mark Coyle, Gopher Athletic Director. Something we kind of started a year ago. He's on the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee, the Selection Committee for Selection Sunday. He's, of course, here in San Antonio. He's been in a couple of different regional sites. And good 30-minute conversation coming up with Mark about a lot of different things, Gopher-related, college sports-related. It's always good to get him at the Final Four. We had him last year in Phoenix. That went well. This went well as well. We'll talk about the Williams Arena news today, talk about transfer portal stuff, talk about Nico Medved, Don Plitzowite, the whole bit. That's coming up about 10 minutes from now. We're straddling a little bit for the top 5 at 5 because there's a bunch of NFL stuff that's come out of the owners' meetings that just, I think, wrapped up within the last day or so. We've referenced some of them, or at least some of the things that came out of Kwesi and KOC's mouth while they were down there, but there are some rule changes or at least proposals and different things that Brett Blakemore wants to update me and you on. What do we got, Brett?
Well, first and foremost, I think the most interesting thing is the tush-push potential ban that my club pushed forward. It's gaining a little bit of traction, Guardsy. 16 teams, according to sources, are for this. They need 24 for approved change. They've tabled it for now, and they'll circle back May 20th through the 21st right here in Eagan. Is when the next meetings are.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We've had those last year, I think, too. I got to be honest.
Yes.
I know everybody wants to tease the Packers for putting this proposal forward. I agree with Carl Gerbschmidt.
Whoa.
Carl Gerbschmidt, I think, when we found out that it was the Packers that put this thing forward, basically said it's not real football. It doesn't feel like real football. I understand why. How can I say this? I don't love it either. I don't like it either as a real play. I think I understand why it works. I understand why Philly liked it. They obviously perfected it. And Jason Kelsey was probably one of the big reasons why. And now I think what's happened is everybody's tried to copy it, and it's just ruined it. The best one was last year when Washington got like 12 penalties in a row, just trying to, time it up and jump over and hurdle it. And the official was scolding people, like John Casey was, or Bob Casey was at the Metrodome in 2001 when people were throwing dome dogs at Chuck Knobloch. He scolded the Commanders. And if you do this again, we're just going to give him a touchdown, so stop doing it. Now quit this, as Bob Casey said 25 years ago. I don't hate that the Packers put this forward. And obviously, over half the teams, right, 16 to 32, I can do that math, actually support it. So I'd be fine if they got rid of the tush-push. People are getting hurt. It doesn't feel like real football. It doesn't feel fair. I don't know. I wouldn't hate it if the whole thing went away.
Now, something Seifert pointed out, too, on Twitter and on these airwaves is that the teams against it are basically saying, besides the Eagles, are basically saying rules shouldn't be just targeted against one single play. And if it was going to do anything, then his suggestion would be to get rid of pushing the ball carrier forward at all. Because what the Packers are saying is get rid of pushing the ball carrier behind the line of scrimmage. Get rid of that. What Seifert is saying is potential solution is get rid of pushing the ball carrier entirely forever, like it was before 2005.
Yeah. See, I kind of like that. Maybe I'm a fraud. I like it when you get the running back running down the field and he's held up at the 20 and then 4 linemen come flying in to rugby push him like another 7 yards. I like those plays. I don't want to see that go away. So if that's what I have to give up, then I guess I'm keeping the tush push. I like that. I actually like that. That to me feels different than I'm just going to put 3 guys behind my quarterback and we're going to go on one, and we're going to push him forward for a yard. The other thing is you can never, and I know you're probably going to talk about this. I know they're finally going to GPS it, and you're finally going to be able to measure some stuff a little bit more specifically than we've wanted to. But that's also part of what we've talked about with this rule is we never know where the ball is. The ball is, it's almost impossible to figure out where the ball actually ends up in some of these tush pushes. Max Brosmer did it against USC the last college football season. I think he got in the first time. I have no idea if he really got in the second time, but I don't think they could overrule it after they decided that it was a touchdown there. So it's just, it's a weird play. It's never really felt right. It does feel kind of cheap. But also, stop it is the other thing to say. Like, the other comeback is just stop it, and we wouldn't have to talk about this that much.
To me, the thing that sent me in the favor of getting rid of it was that Commanders game. We're going to award points. Like, that just feels cheesy to me.
Well, yeah, but if the team is literally not trying to stop the play and just trying to guess right forever, at some point, like, play that out. How long could Washington have done that? They could have done that in another hour. If you're just going to go inch by inch and eventually half inch by half inch, centimeter by centimeter, millimeter by millimeter, you can't move it any closer physically than, and that is in the rule book, which is hilarious. No one had ever thought of it. No one had ever heard of it. But they were sick of it. You could tell. And they just said, we're just going to try to guess right one of these times, and whatever the consequences are, be damned. Touchdown was the only way to end that thing.
Here's a new rule. Touchbacks are now going to the 35. Your thoughts?
I didn't love the new kickoff. I thought it was a lot of work and a lot of extra stuff and a lot of confusion. I still don't truly understand exactly what all of it means. The landing area and the fair catches and the live balls and all of that. I'm fine with it. The 35 is fine. Like, we don't need the kickoffs anymore. We really don't. Like, kickers are so good. Just boot it out of the end zone. If you want to return it, return it. I think we've spent so much time on the kickoff thing. I know Common spent some time on this like last week. Like, he wants more returns because there might be more fumbles. And then you were there, right?
Yep,
we found out there's like 2 fumbles in the last 20 years that have actually been recovered. Like,
I felt bad for wet blanketing his take, but yeah, that's what I found.
But those are the numbers. Like, I just think we're spending so much time on either kick it in the end zone or try to stop them. Whether it's the 25, the 35, does that 10 yards really make a big difference? Maybe. I doubt it. I think we've spent so much time trying to figure out what's the perfect yard line to try to get some action, but also try to keep people safe. I don't think we can have it all. So decide whatever you want to decide. I really don't care. I want my kicker to just kick it out of the end zone and make the team go, I guess, 65 yards now. The one thing I will say, though, is field goal kickers have been so good now that 10 yards might matter, because you really only need, if you're at the 35, shoot, you only need, 20 yards now for some of these kickers, given the fact that they just pull... they'll pull it out of the bag for 65 yards and not even think about it. That's one thing. That's one reason why they probably spend time on it. But we've spent so much time on kickoffs and changed rules and you got to wait till they catch the ball, then you can run. Kickers way behind the 10 that are rushing. It's all too confusing, and it's a lot for 6 plays a game. It seems like a lot.
I agree. Here's a proposal. The Eagles actually got approved. Overtime. This is one of the most evergreen topics we could possibly talk about. NFL overtime rules. Now in the regular season, both teams are guaranteed a possession instead of just the playoffs where they're both guaranteed. In the regular season, they weren't. Now it's the same on all fronts. I like it. I don't think, and I know this is you don't do shootouts in the playoffs, and you do during the regular season. I for hockey, I like this. I think the rules should be the same, regular season, postseason. I like both teams being able to get a chance. I think that's fair. Is that 2009 NFC Championship game baggage? It might be. For the Saints just having to kick a field goal. Guess what happened after that? Changed the rule. A year too late for the Vikings. Didn't really help. So put that in the hopper of things that happen to Minnesota teams, and then the rule gets changed. But I think this one's fine. I like this one. This isn't going to add too much craziness. Just keep it uniform. I'm good with this one. Let's talk Hawkeye here before we go. Hawkeye system. So it basically depends on 6 8K cameras that'll track the ball, according to Sony's press release. These cameras will be operated in all NFL stadiums as well as international venues for the 2025 season.
Love it.
The chain gang will be basically secondary, and they'll be break glass in case of emergency. They'll be on the sidelines, but everything will be technology based.
I love
the Hawkeye system.
Give it a chance.
It's a bad name.
That's what they've used in tennis forever. Hawkeye is what they called it. I don't know if they call it that now, but that was the original technology that they used. Give it a chance. We're going to hear Mark Coyle say something similar in terms of you got to try some stuff. I know it's not going to be perfect. We read that long Twitter thread at the end of the season from the guy who's basically in charge of this kind of technology for, I think, the Amazon broadcast, and he talked about all the different pitfalls and the reasons why it wouldn't work. I still think in 2025, with all the technology that we have and the advances to be able to do it, why wouldn't we try it? You have the crew there, as you said, the break glass in an emergency. You've got a million eyes on all of this stuff. There's no reason to not try this and see if it's actually feasible. Will it be perfect? Probably not. But that doesn't mean you just don't try it. So I'm 100% on board with giving this a shot, seeing if it helps. Maybe it'll help in the tush-push version, too, like we said. So you actually know where the ball's going to be. I like this, 100% behind this.
There you go. There's
good recap.
Most of the rule changes. Yeah,
good recap. I liked it. I appreciate you putting that together. When we come back, second of our second annual conversation with Athletic Director Mark Coyle at the University of Minnesota. We talk Nico Medved. We talk Don Plitzowite. We talk Williams Arena with some news that the school announced today regarding naming rights now being up for sale and what they're doing with that. We also talk about just transfer portal, NIL, Gopher basketball in general. A ton of stuff covered in about a 30-minute conversation with the Gophers boss, Mark Coyle. We will replay that next from San Antonio.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
If you want to chime into what's happening in your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
Welcome back to San Antonio. Guardsy here on Radio Row, and it's become, I guess, a tradition that I think this is year 2, second year in a row, we have NCAA men's basketball committee member and athletic director Mark Coyle join at Radio Row. Good to see you, boss.
Nice to see you again, and our tradition will come to an end next year if you invite me back, because next year's my last year on the committee.
I was going to say,
it'll be a 3-year tradition.
That's okay. That's pretty good. In the world of college sports, to have anything last more than 1 year, I think at this point is good, right?
It feels like an eternity, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
no, but we'll get together next year in Indianapolis at the Final Four there, and then I rotate off the committee, so we'll have to figure out a different way to connect with each other.
I'm fine with that. We have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to keep you forever, even though we could. A lot of different things to talk about. You have some news that broke today about Williams Arena that I want to get to, but I want to start with women's basketball. I had Don Plitzowite on earlier in the show, and what a season that they had. Obviously disappointed to not be in March Madness, but made the best of the opportunity in the WBIT. I know you got to see them a little bit in Indy last weekend before you came here, but how do you kind of evaluate how that season went for them?
Well, if you take a step back, and obviously you're so close with that program with your work with them, arguably our two best players didn't play most of the year.
Definitely the best player.
Yes,
right.
With Mara, and so I think it's going to be really interesting when you watch the games. And I was watching the championship game last night. You're watching that game, and you're like, well, whose minutes are going to be reduced? If you think about the 5 on the floor, right?
Yes.
So I think every coach will tell you playing games, getting that experience is so important. And so if you think about it, we got an extra month to our season. To win the WBIT championship was awesome. We have a text thread with the men's basketball committee members. They're all texting me, all excited about it. Had NCAA committee meetings this morning. The NCAA was congratulating me. So it's a big deal. It's important for Dawn and our program to continue to make those steps forward. She's been here 2 years, 2 20-plus win seasons. Our goal is to get to the NCAA tournament, and I think we're well on that way as we move towards the future with our women's basketball program.
I don't think you and I have talked about when you hired Dawn, kind of how you first became aware of her or watched her, obviously what she did at South Dakota, the 1 year at West Virginia, all of that. Like, what drew you to her couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat myself, Guardsy, from last week when we introduced Nico. If you kind of take a step back, and as you know, I'm not the smartest dude. You all make fun of me, which is cool. I get it. But when we hired PJ Fleck back in football, right? I remember we talked about winners win, right? And I mentioned, I had a conversation with Jim Delaney my first year or so at Minnesota, and he just talked about the importance of finding people who win and they continue to win. And he talked about Bo Ryan at Wisconsin and their basketball program, when Bo got there and how he'd won at different levels and won there. And so obviously was familiar with Dawn when she was at South Dakota, and then when she went to West Virginia. If you look at her track record, I can't remember off the top of my head how many 21 seasons she's had, but she's had a ton of them. And we just felt like winners win. And I had a chance. I was actually on the committee. I think it was my second year on the committee. Had a chance to talk with her for a few times. I had a chance to watch their Big 12 games in the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Then I watched her play against Arizona in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and they did not win that game. And after that game, we announced her as our head coach maybe within 24, 48 hours. But again, with Dawn, the people we talked to, you look at her background, winners win. You've been around her a lot. She is very, very intentional how she does things. And again, we feel really fortunate that she's leading our women's basketball program.
She reminds me a lot of PJ. They remind me of each other. Is that a fair comparison?
100%. Again, I think you spend obviously so much time with PJ. They are both so intentional. Every decision they do, there's a reason why they do it. There's a reason why they make that decision. And again, that's why I think this extra month of playing, that's going to pay such huge dividends for our program, because again, it gives those kids a chance to be coached by her. They give them game experience. The Gonzaga game, which was so close at home in Williams Arena, to get that one and then go down to Indianapolis and win those two games. Again, she's very intentional, just like PJ is. And again, we feel really fortunate that she's leading our program.
All right, let's talk about Nico for a little bit. You make the decision to move on from Ben Johnson, and usually in coaching searches, as you know, there's lots of names that kind of pop out, and you usually keep things pretty quiet. You're pretty buttoned up, but there's always rumors and there's always speculation. It seems pretty quickly that Nico's name emerged, and there wasn't a whole lot else. So it seems pretty obvious to me that you zeroed in on Nico very quickly. What drew you to? Is that fair? First of all,
yeah. Well, what we did, towards the end of February, beginning of March, we felt like we were going to have to make a change if things didn't get better. And when we lost at Rutgers and we lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, it just felt like that time was now to make that change. And as we were going through those couple of weeks, you know me, I like to keep a list. We had a list of coaches, and obviously Nico's going to be on that list because of what he's done at Colorado State, what he did at Drake, what he did at Furman, and the fact that he's a graduate, two-time graduate only helps, right? All those type of things. And so we had a deep pool in terms of the people we were vetting. I was having conversations with different athletic directors, different basketball coaches across the country once we made the decision to go in a different direction with our basketball program. And Nico's name was right up there right away. And he and I had a chance. We talked very early on, I think, Thursday when I got back to Indianapolis. And I just, he said he was interested. And I said, I want to be very respectful of the Mountain West basketball tournament.
Right.
Did not think he was going to win it, but he won 3 games. And, and again, we talked throughout that and talked to his agent. And then once they got to the NCAA tournament and once that all unfolded, we felt really comfortable with him. And again, trust is such a big part of that. I think people talk about my relationship with PJ and how much we trust each other. You have to develop trust really quickly. I think he and I developed trust really quickly. We knew he wasn't looking at other jobs. We were zeroing in on him. And so once they lost that heartbreaker to Maryland, we were able to move really quickly, get into town, and make the announcement, I think, within 24, 36 hours after that game.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was funny. People were, and I'm sure you know this or were alerted to it, people were watching you watch Colorado State. Right. So, you definitely, because you were in Milwaukee, right, that first weekend, you had your eye on what was going on in Seattle, I think it was.
Yeah, I didn't realize people were watching.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
Mark Coyle's watching the Colorado State game. Well, no crap. It seems pretty obvious this is who they're going to hire.
Yeah, they have, as a committee member, they give us phenomenal seats. Yep. And we have TV monitors, and you can watch the replays of your game. So if there's any calls, you're paying attention. And I was with the Marquette rep, Jamie, who was wonderful, and I said, we're going to watch this game over here. And she's like, okay. And she had no idea why I wanted to watch this game. And I think I shared at the press conference when the young man from Colorado State hit the 3-pointer, we were going into halftime of the Iowa State Ole Miss game.
Right.
And so I walked back to the committee room, and our daughter Gracie, who's in law school at Marquette, she was shadowing me for the weekend. She's interested in sports. I'm trying to talk her out of it, but she was shadowing me. And she met me in the room, and she just had this look on her face. And Grace has the best scoop of anybody. If you guys ever want to get scoop, talk to Grace Coyle.
Yeah.
But she's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I'm glad you said we, because sometimes I feel like it's just me. But I'm like, I go, hey, if they win the game, we're waiting another week. That's what we're going to do. And we were prepared to do that. The kid from Maryland made an unbelievable shot, and that just sped up our timetable. But yeah, we were committed to Nico. He was committed to us, and again, really excited about having him at our program.
Well, if you look at it on paper, because we were talking before we hit record about the one of us thing that Minnesotans like, and you've hired a lot of Minnesota graduates for a lot of different sports. It's obviously important to you. I understand why. To me, the fact that he's from Roseville is just like a bonus, and that he's a graduate there, because if you just put it on paper, and you know this, 3 tournaments in 4 years, Mountain West champion, has won everywhere. Roseville, Tempe, Arizona, who cares where he's from at that point, right? Like, this is a good coach.
Yeah, and I felt a lot of pressure to get this right. And to be very honest with you, Guardsy, the fact that he was from Minnesota was not high on our radar screen. It definitely helps. There's no doubt about that.
It probably helps him want to come here.
Yeah,
right?
I think that gives us an advantage, because I do know programs had reached out to him. I mean, he was a very popular name. People wanted to hire him. And again, we just felt like, again, when you looked on paper, 3 of the past 4 years in the NCAA tournament, I spent 4 years at Boise State as the athletic director. The Mountain West, it's a very competitive league. It's hard to win on the road. He had good road wins. In fact, one of his last road wins, he beat Boise State. I watched that game. He beat Boise State, I think, by 12 or 14 points. I had a chance to watch that game. And my wife, why are we watching so much Colorado State? No reason. But anyway, we watched those games. But again, yeah, I mean, the fact that he's from Minnesota, awesome. But we needed to get this hire right, and we feel really comfortable. And again, just so thankful for Eric, his wife, Allie Taylor's daughters, and Nico. Because again, when you move, it's a transition. It's hard to make those moves. They are very comfortable at Colorado State. It's a wonderful program. But we're really excited and selfishly think we got the right coach to lead our program as we move forward.
Why'd you feel so much pressure?
Well, I think, I heard an analogy one time, a long time ago, before I came an athletic director. They said that every AD has a jar of jelly beans on their desk, and every time you make a decision, you pull out some jelly beans out of that jar, and it can never be refilled, right? And I feel like, Minnesota being in the Big Ten Conference, we feel like we have to be relevant in men's basketball, women's basketball, football, men's hockey. We feel like those sports, it's critical to be relevant with the changes going on. That doesn't mean that we're not focused on wrestling or swimming and diving, right, and all those other. We care very much about all those sports. We're a broad-based program. We care about those sports, and I feel like in those 5 major sports, you've got to be relevant. And I feel like we've got Keegan Cook in volleyball doing really good things. You got PJ in football doing really good things. We just talked about Dawn and what she's doing with the women's basketball program. Bob Motzko, had great success at St. Cloud. He's come here 2 Frozen Fours, number 1, number 2 most of the year. A tough loss in the NCAA tournament this year, but we felt like those. So we feel like men's basketball, we've got to step that up. And the time I've been here, we've only been to 2 NCAA tournaments. I was at Kentucky for 7 years. I was at Syracuse. I was at Boise State. We went to the NCAA tournament multiple times at all those spots.
Right.
I want to get back to the NCAA tournament. So again, we felt like we had to get this right for a lot of reasons.
It felt like this, and tell me if I'm wrong, it felt like this hire was less of a committee from the last time or other hires that you've made, and this was more of a, I'm Mark Coyle, I'm the athletic director. I'm gonna ask some people, I'm gonna talk to some people, but this one is on me.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I'd be remiss. President Cunningham, who just got here last July, I think people forget she's so new, doing so many wonderful things for our campus. I had a chance to talk with her Friday before the Rutgers game when we played Rutgers on Saturday, and I just explained to her, if we're gonna move in this direction, it's got to be quick and small, and she was fully supportive of that. We've got great people, Julie Dusty, our deputy athletics director, Tricia Butsky, Tim McCleary, Jeremiah Carr, some other folks, but we were much more focused on this one, and I had the conversations. I vetted them with my staff, and then we were able to move forward and get Nico to come here.
You mentioned we got to get basketball going. I've shared this with Nico because I talked to him last week. In my time, as you know, I am one of us. I've been around a long time, covered the U for a while. I've never felt as much external pressure on maybe the school, the athletic department, to say it's not just a coaching thing with men's basketball. A lot of good coaches have come through here. The coach that preceded Ben is now in the Big East, right? Richard Pitino's done a really good job. That I think people are saying this has got to be everybody moving forward. Do you feel that as well? Do you think that's an accurate read?
I do. I think 100%. I think sometimes, we forget, when we went to the Final Four all those years ago, I think sometimes we think we've gone to the Final Four every year and we haven't. And we've got to figure out why we haven't haven't gone to the Final Four. And I can tell you, Guardsy, with the changes coming up, with the potential hearing on Monday with the Judge Wilkins in the House settlement, depending on what happens with that, we will now have institutional revenue share that we can do with our programs, and we are fully committed to men's basketball. We are allocating a lot of money to men's basketball because we feel like it's critically important to be relevant in that sport, and by relevant, NCAA tournament being on the front page of the paper for all the right reasons. And so we've got to make a commitment. And again, President Cunningham, her time at Michigan, an unbelievable academic institution, an unbelievable athletic institution. She understands that the two can work together. They can work positively with each other. And again, she's been incredibly supportive, and she's fully committed to basketball. And we've got to continue to work to grow our Dingytown athletics. You and I talk about that I feel Saturday in the fall.
We do.
But we got to continue to build that, which I think we're doing it the right way. And then also with the institutional NIL, I think we're going to be positioned in a good spot to have some quick success here soon with Nico.
All right, let's talk about the Williams Arena news today, that you're working with a firm to try to find somebody to be the title sponsor for the barn. It makes sense. It's probably the only thing that doesn't have some type of corporate partnership. So take us through how this relationship came together.
Yeah, well, as you know, probably, and I might be off maybe 18, 20 months ago, it was in the media that we had worked with some consultants, and we just looked about, hey, if we renovated Williams Arena, what does it look like? What does it cost, those type of things? And we had put those meetings on pause just with the new institutional NIL revenue. I'm trying to find $20.5 million for that side of it. While we were having those conversations, we started to engage a company called ISCE, and they specialize in naming rights opportunities. And if you remember, a few years ago, we renamed Mariucci Arena 3M Arena at Mariucci. Right. And so we felt that.
And that hasn't taken away from the fan experience, by the way, like some people.
Yeah.
Because that always, that to me is the most hilarious thing people complain about, the corporate naming of the building.
Yes.
Relax.
It's still fine, and it's still sold out. And people.
It was pretty fun there this year.
Yeah. And so our goal with Williams Arena, we just want to see, we've got so many great corporations in the Twin Cities and nationally. We feel like our basketball programs on the women's side is making great progress. We feel like we're going to make progress with Nico. So we just felt like the timing was right to see if we could find a naming partner. And again, that naming partner, that revenue, you're close enough with our program. Our board and our president make it crystal clear we have to have a balanced budget. And you've heard me say this a million times. Money's not the most important thing in college athletics, but it's right up there with oxygen. And if we can get a naming partner for Williams Arena, that is money that we can invest back into our program, our men's basketball program, our women's basketball program, our football, our hockey, our gymnastics. We can invest that money back into our student athlete experience. And so again, we're just trying to get creative to generate new revenue. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I just hope people in Minnesota understand, we always don't talk about this, but academically, you've heard me talk. I mean, our grade point average with our student athletes is a 3.48, right. One of the top in the country. Our graduation rate is like 96, 97%, one of the best in the country. So we're graduating our kids. We're doing it the right way there. Athletically, we finished in the top 10, 12% every year in the Directors' Cup, which compares you against every Division I program. And so, again, we feel like we've been good stewards of the resources we've been blessed with, but we just need additional money, especially as we enter this new transformational stage of college athletics. And we feel like naming Williams Arena would be a great way to generate some new revenue that we haven't seen in the past.
And I think the shock of, I'm old enough to remember when they built then TCF Bank Stadium, and people couldn't believe you would put a corporate sponsor. Like, those days are over. And I think people understand now why you have to do that. Yeah. I am curious, though, because a year ago at this time we did talk a lot about the plan for Williams Arena moving forward. So when you say, pause, because my whole thing the last couple months, and I'm sure you'll appreciate when I have big opinions on the department. If with basketball, it's okay. Whatever you're doing, do it quickly. You did that, right? You obviously flew home from Indy privately, the whole bit. Then make sure you're declarative that we're investing in the basketball program. You've done that. My third thing was what's going on with Williams.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like there's going to be a little bit of a pause there on doing anything to it moving forward in terms of renovating or even thinking about a new building sometime?
100% fair. We have not ruled out, right now a new building. When we started to go down that avenue, you're talking about maybe 2 years of playing elsewhere in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And how does that impact your fan base? How does that impact the teams, recruiting, all those type of things? So there's a lot of things we have to work through on that side of it. When you talk about renovating, it could be a year, 2 years where you're not playing in that building, right? So you just got to try to understand the disruption. But what we decided, Guardsy, with the 20.5 million, I don't want to take on new debt right now with a new facility, and so we felt like we just had to take a pause, take a step back. I'm not dodging your question. Do I see us building a new arena in the next 2-3 years? I do not.
Right.
Do I see us trying to renovate Williams Arena and try to make some enhancements? I talk about Wrigley Field and what the Cubs did to Wrigley Field, how it's still Wrigley Field, but they've made nice enhancements. Yep. Those things are very much interested to me, and I'd like to see what that looks like. Obviously, we'll work with our board of regents, we'll work with President Cunningham and our campus partners to see what makes sense. But right now, we just got to get through this first year of revenue share to see how we manage that. We've got to get through Nico's first year. I loved how Nico said the barn's an advantage. And again, I'm going to refer to women's basketball, but when we had UConn there a year ago, when I was there a year ago, nobody fussed about the barn. Sold out building. It was rocking. It was great crowds. This year, when men's basketball won the 2 games on the West Coast and we came back, we had that Saturday game against, I think we played Northwestern, or we played Penn State on Saturday, I think, and they beat us. But remember how good the crowd was?
I do.
I mean, people don't fuss about it then, right? So I think we find reasons to fuss about Williams Arena. So again, I'm
guilty of that.
Yeah,
I'm definitely
we've
guilty of that.
We've got to win. If we win, people will come, people will support us, and that atmosphere will change dramatically.
We're talking with Mark Coyle here on Radio Row in San Antonio. He's on the men's basketball selection committee, competition committee, men's basketball committee.
Men's basketball committee, third time's a charm.
Yeah, something like that. Next year I'll get it right when we're in Indy. You mentioned the balancing of the budget and how that's you're charged with doing that. That's what the school wants. That's what the Board of Regents wants. Totally get that. How do you, when you read, let's say, we talked about it on one of the podcasts when Gene Smith, who used to be at Ohio State, says, on my way out, I left the new guy a huge deficit. It's like $40 million. He said football needed to be good, and I wanted to win a Big Ten championship and maybe a national championship on the way out. I mean, we're talking like $30 million that they went in the, what is it, red or black? I don't even know business. Red.
Yeah.
And when you hear that, like I feel like it's important people hear that when this is who we're supposed to be competing with, and good for them, right? That's what they want to do. I don't think the new AD's mad about it. They just won a national championship, but that's wild to me.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing this up because we don't talk about this, and that's what we compete against. I mean, if you take a step back, we compete against programs that do that very thing. I think Rutgers is over $50 million in the red every year with their campus, and again, Minnesota, thankfully, again, our Board of Regents, our president, have been incredibly supportive. We're very thankful for that support, but we've got to be a balanced budget. And I think Pat Forty, the writer for Sports Illustrated, a few years ago, he said Minnesota might be the most resourceful athletic program in the country in terms of the success we have and how we manage our budgets, because our debt service has gotten lower since we've been at Minnesota. We've been able to build up a little bit of reserve. We've done things the right way. Tim McCleary, our CFO, does a wonderful job. But again, we feel that pressure. We feel that expectations. And again, we talk about what PJ makes, what Dawn makes, what Nico makes. Well, they're toward the bottom of the Big Ten.
Right.
I understand they make a lot of money and all those, but they're towards the bottom of the Big Ten. I think our operating budget in the Big Ten right now is 14 out of 18. That's on us to continue to build that thing up, and that's why we look at naming partners for Williams Arena. That's how we can generate some new revenue to help us compete with our peers.
That's crazy, though. I mean, it is crazy that, by the way, we play Ohio State in football next year, right?
We do.
Here's I think.
Yes.
Here's the numbers. Good luck, Coach.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I do think it is worth bringing up, though, from time to time. And not saying that this should mean, the Gophers can't compete and they can't win, but sometimes you're talking apples and oranges with just the financial ramifications. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, I think Ohio State's budget's over $250 million. We're at $153 million right now, and when I made that difficult decision several years ago to eliminate those 3 sports programs, part of that was because we had so many sports compared to our peers. We just couldn't keep up pace. So you got to make some hard decisions, and again, we got to be very resourceful in how we manage our budgets.
All right, let's do a couple things outside of the Gophers. Okay. We mentioned you're on the basketball committee. You guys are going to get ripped no matter what you do, right? There's always going to be 1 or 2 teams. You've got to pick 68 teams. There's going to be one that shouldn't have been in there. There's going to be a couple that you probably left out. How do you guys handle that in the room when, let's just use, for example, North Carolina was the big one this year. Then, of course, they go up and just rout San Diego State in the play, and I'm sure you guys all like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys talk about that, as you're going through, we really have to vet this team, or we really have to have a good case, because this is the one, Bubba's going to get asked about this one when he goes on to talk to the guys on CBS. How do you talk about those bubble teams?
Yeah, well, there's 12 members on the committee, and then we have NCAA staff that are in the room that are working with us as we kind of work our way through the selection process. And, I like to remind people, our job is to find the best 37 teams, at-large teams. Not the most deserving, but the best 37 at-large teams, right? And so when you look at a North Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, teams like that who are just, they're all kind of bunched together. And I always tell people, Jamie Pollard, the AD at Iowa State, when he was on the committee, he told me, almost anybody can pick 1 through 25.
Sure.
Right? Then you throw in the 31 AQs. So now you're talking about 10 to 15 teams where it gets really hard, and they all have warts because those top 25, you look at Auburn, you look at Duke, Florida, the teams here at Houston, they got really good resumes, right? But then you get in the middle, those resumes start to get quad 3, quad 4 losses, and you got to try to work your way through that. And it's interesting. I heard from a lot of people when we got back to town who were upset. West Virginia, Indiana, to name a few, Louisville. I heard from their fans, and I tried to explain to them, when you look at the overall metrics and you look at how it was set up, we felt like, and again, I'm one vote, but we felt like North Carolina deserved to be in the tournament. They did have the big win over San Diego State, and they lost. I actually had them in Milwaukee. They lost to
Ole Miss. Ole Miss, that's right. Ole Miss
in Milwaukee. But again, we spent a lot of time debating those things, and I can't tell you how many metrics we have. I mean, I'd love to sit down with you sometime and just show you the metrics we look at, and you can look at everything, our team sheets, how we do it, what we break it down to. But it's hard to get the exact 68, but we felt like we did a good job, and I think second time ever you got the top 4 seeds are here in San Antonio. So I think that shows that we had somewhat of an idea what we were doing.
So when you say vote, like when you're going to like the last 4 teams in, do you guys literally go around the room like it's a jury, or how do you pick those teams?
Yeah, well, we all work together. It's you don't vote out loud or anything like that. You all work together, and again, I think it's important to note, Bubba can't vote. Bubba Cunningham is the chair of the NCAA Division I basketball, and he's the AD at North Carolina, so he's not allowed to be in the room when we have conversations about North Carolina, so he has no vote. So, for example, if we were talking about Minnesota and we're going to be in the NCAA tournament, I would have to leave the room when they vote on Minnesota and they talk about our team. You're not allowed to be a part of those conversations. So Keith Gill, who's the vice chair, led those conversations at that time. But again, everybody votes, and I had a great conversation with Commissioner Batiti of the Big Ten, because hey, just walk me through how this works, and I kind of explained to him just what I'm explaining to you. We all have one vote. You tie those votes, and whoever gets the most votes gets in the tournament. If you don't get the votes, you don't get in the tournament.
But you're all cheering for North Carolina, right?
No comment.
Yeah, I was going to say it goes well for you there. Is there a right time for the transfer portal window, other than right now, for basketball, or even football? I think is even more complicated with the playoff teams, but it just seems like it's such a hard time. But I don't know if there is a right answer. What do you think,
Justin? I don't think there's a right answer, because I think everybody, like, if I say this all the time. I was at Syracuse 1 year and I left to come to Minnesota. So I had the ability to transfer, if you will, right? So I think everybody's in favor of transferring. If a student athlete gets to a place, it's not the right fit, not the right playing time, they should have the opportunity to transfer, move on. What's happened is when you throw in this collective NIL, I think transfer looks more like pay for play, right? And these kids are throwing huge dollars to leave schools. That's why you see kids leaving multiple schools, going to different schools and so forth. I think now with the transfer portal, I think it goes dead to day in basketball through the Final Four, but then it opens back up next week. I think football, it opens up after spring practice, which is crazy for the coaches. You saw several programs who aren't doing spring games because they don't want to showcase their talent. So I'm not sure there's the right time to have the transfer portal. I am so hopeful that when we get approval of the settlement, it could happen as early as Monday, but it may take a week or two. But once we get that approval, hopefully we can get much stronger guidelines in place that will make the transfer portal what it's supposed to be about, and not this quote NIL that it's become.
Well, now there's supposed to be some type of clearinghouse, right, that NIL deals are going to go through. I read a story this week. I think it might have been Forty, might have been Wetzel, one of the two, that talk about some coaches are worried that is going to put things back under the table in terms of money. Do you share those concerns, or how do you feel about the whole clearinghouse model for NIL stuff?
Yeah, what I can tell you, I had a chance. I think Coach Patino, the dad, and Coach Self had some strong comments yesterday about that. And
the dad,
quite honestly, we have to give this a chance to work. It's a brand new system. I have great faith in Commissioner Batiti, Commissioner Sankey of the SEC, Commissioner Phillips with the ACC, and Commissioner Yormark with the Big 12. The A4. Those commissioners have been working incredibly hard with the athletic directors, with the senior women administrators, with the compliance directors. I think we have to give this system a chance. We're going to have a judge that's hopefully going to give us some guidelines, and we just have to see if the guidelines work. And if they don't work, hopefully we're all smart enough to take a step back and say, okay, this isn't working. How can we adjust it? But what I do know is we do need transparency, because right now these kids, these agents are calling saying, hey, well, this school's going to pay me X. You got to match, or else I'm going elsewhere. Well, in this new world, we'll be able to know exactly what they're paying, and that should help us as we move forward. toward.
Well, if the last 5 years have taught us anything, you can change things.
Yes. Change is the only constant.
It doesn't have to be glacial.
Yep.
Like, you can say this doesn't work anymore. I think we all learned a lot in COVID when you said, my favorite story is the football teams that weren't scheduled to play just decided on a Tuesday they were going to play because they both had COVID opt-outs on the other side, and they figured it out. You don't have to do everything to 2040, right?
Correct.
You can be more nimble than college athletics have historically been. Fair to say?
No, 100%. You know, and I used to joke that college athletics is like trying to turn a battleship.
It's true.
Now it's got to be a speedboat. You got to be able to nimble. You got to be able to adjust quickly. And again, you know, let's see how this new system works. It's going to be better than what we have now. And again, hopefully we're smart enough that if we do need to make changes, we can make changes collectively as coaches, as student athletes, and as administrators.
Last thing on the revenue sharing. You've talked about the 5 sports. I know the coaches and you have had meetings for a really long time about how it was going to break down. How did you get to a good spot? You're obviously going to be aggressive in men's basketball. That might come at the expense of a little bit of football, which I'm sure PJ is asking about. Obviously, Dawn Plitzowite, as you know, is like PJ, very aggressive with hockey and with volleyball. They're going to want some. So how did you kind of come to the greater good with those 5 programs?
Yeah, well, you know, first off, I always tell our coaches I can't control what other athletic directors are telling their coaches and their staff. We have tried to be very transparent and honest with all of our coaches. And what we do know is that, you know, when we look at our sports and how we're going to revenue share, what can we do to be competitive? And I had a chance to sit down with each one of those coaches collectively and together, and we talked about what we were going to do with the different sports. We got input from all those coaches on, hey, we feel like we need this at this level to be able to compete in the level, and so they provide us with good feedback. So I don't think they're mad at me. I may find out in 6 months, but again, in our conversations, it was collectively as a group with our executive team in the room with me. So we try to be very honest and transparent. Because of antitrust laws, I don't know what other schools are going to be paying or how they're going to be paying. But again, we have a sense of what we've seen nationally, and we feel like all 5 of those programs will be in a very competitive spot. Because again, those 5, we've got to be relevant in those 5 sports, because that just generates so much revenue for all of our other programs to allow us to compete in the Big Ten and on the national level.
One thing I think all of them understand is football, of course, we know it drives everything, but I've even talked to PJ about this. Like, he wants all those other programs to be successful too. He was at Nico's press conference. I was talking to him about that. He says, we get basketball good, it makes everybody's lives easier. Like, I think all your coaches understand the importance of the other one, which I'm sure you can tell me isn't always the case, right?
No. I think, you know, we've got a great group of coaches who want to help each other. And again, everything goes back to recruiting. At the end of the day, it's all about recruiting. And when you bring a football or volleyball recruit to a men's basketball game or a women's basketball game, if that place is rocking, it's just a different vibe, right? They come to a hockey, it's just a different vibe. So again, it all comes back to recruiting. And if you have success in those major sports, it generates a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, and it helps all of us. All
right, we covered a lot. Is there anything we haven't covered? Anything else you need to get off your chest, or something that you've been thinking about the last 3 weeks on the road?
Therapy session. You know, my big goal is sleep. To be honest with you, it's been a month. But again, just I hope people understand. It's hard to believe I'm finishing my 9th year here in Minnesota. But we just feel so grateful to be a part of this community. And again, I'm just really excited with the changes taking place on the national level. I think President Cunningham, our Board of Regents have been incredibly supportive. I feel like we're in a really great spot where we can make some really big time noise with all of our sports and continue to compete at a high level and make all Minnesotans proud.
I agree with what Derek Burns, co-founder of Dinkytown Athletes, said. There's never a better time in history for Minnesota to be a disruptor, right?
Yes.
You're not going up against, you're fighting battles. We just talked about the Ohio State battle, but you're not fighting the traditional battles that have made the haves forever and the have-nots. There does seem like a big opportunity here to really make a jump in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I think it's important. If people remember anything I talk about, we are so fortunate to be in the Big Ten Conference, right, in the WCHA with women's hockey, and we need to continue to do everything we can to represent our institution, our state at the highest level, and there's no doubt the Big Ten is a major player separating themselves, and it's great that we can be a part of those conversations and a part of that great conference.
I want to do a public apology to your son Benji, who's had to sit here through this whole time. He's clearly not interested, but thank you for coming here for the 2nd year in a row. I hope we can do it in Indy. It means a lot. You got a lot going on, so I appreciate you coming down and spending time so we can talk back to the people in Minneapolis about what's going on here. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's great to see a familiar face. We appreciate you, and Benji said as much to me as he did to you for the past month in our house, so it's all good. Teenagers.
I understand. He'll be gone soon. He'll be in college soon. Thanks, boss.
Appreciate you.
Athletic Director Mark Coyle. More from Radio Row.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
and they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
When we come back.
Fan.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975. Guards in for Barreiro today. I'll be in for Dan tomorrow. Dan will be back on Monday. I'm in San Antonio for Final Four stuff. Radio Row is here all day. We'll be here tomorrow. What did we have today? We started with head coach Don Plitzowite, Gopher women's basketball, reviewing the WBIT championship in Indy. My favorite host city, of course, greatest city in the whole wide world. Just ask them. She was great. First 15 minutes or so of the show on just the season, on transfer portal stuff now for them. I saw one of their players, Kenna Johnson, is in the portal, played sporadically as the season went along. So I'm sure there'll be some more news over the next couple of days on who's in, who's out, all of those things. Tori McKinney said she's coming back. That's good. But a great second season for Don Plitzowite. Of course, they want to be in March Madness. We're probably one game short from making that this season, and I would think they're pretty much done messing around with these secondary tournaments starting next season. So that was good. Matt Morgenthaler joined, Minnesota State Mankato head coach, NABC president as well. He's always great. Always get great texts when Morgenthaler joins just on college basketball in general, a guy who's in it, in the boardroom, in the meeting room, told some great stories from the meetings today on the topics at hand that everybody in college sports is talking about. Appreciate Chris Hine joining from Brooklyn to talk Timberwolves. That was at 4:30. Then what else did we have? I don't even remember. I know we had Mark Coyle. We just wrapped that up. Appreciate him coming by and spending basically 30 minutes here talking a bunch of stuff about Gopher sports, the Williams Arena news from today, and a bunch of stuff moving forward. All of it will be podcastable. Tomorrow, the Friday regulars will join. That includes Ben Gessling. That includes Lavelli Neal III. And we'll have a bunch more basketball guests here from San Antonio, not just on the college side, but professional side as well. So looking forward to bringing you that. Appreciate Brett Blakemore helping back out in the Twin Cities. And thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be back tomorrow from Radio Row.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.